Hello and welcome to the Pay It Forward podcast, where I am getting in conversations with payment experts and entrepreneurs from around the world. And for this episode, we're going to be diving into Femtech and the sensitivities behind the big technologies that our industries are using with none other than Ida Tin. Ida, it's a real pleasure, not only because I've seen you on the internet with Femtech, but the fact that you're actually here in Cyprus for this festival is incredible. Tell me, what brought you to Cyprus?
The vibe I got from the organizers was that they were so passionate about the ecosystem here, and it felt like what Berlin felt like 10 or 15 years ago, and also Copenhagen 10 years ago, like the birth of a new ecosystem, which has some sort of innocence that I think is really beautiful and a lot of passion.
Like I said, I know your background, but for the listeners who do not know what Ida Tin or who Ida Tin is and Clue, would you mind giving us an introduction?
Sure. Well, I'm an entrepreneur because at some point I was wondering, why has there been no innovation in female health tech, specifically birth control? So I thought maybe I could do something. And that was really the spark that got me going in 2009. And then since then I've been building Clue together with my ex-partner and co-founder Hans Raffhoff and many other amazing people. And we've built a period tracking app that allows women to understand what's going on with their bodies. And many million people are now using it around the world, all across the world. And we have also built features to help people with pregnancy and fertility and menopause, and also a new type of birth control. So yeah, lots of different things has happened on that journey. We coined the term Femtech along the way because we could see that so much was happening and it needed a name. Yeah, and then I'm chairwoman of the board now. I handed over the CEO title to two amazing women a couple of years ago, and I've been working on a book since then. So
A book?
Yes.
Oh, you have to tell me about it, if you can.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to. It's going to be about femtech and technology, and a lot about the kind of outsized responsibility that we have as tech founders, as we're building the world in many ways right now. So it's also about systemic shift. I think there's a huge shift happening. I think a lot about how we think about success. Like, what is it actually to be successful? I think we need to think about planetary health when we think about success. And currently, we're not really.
I agree with you on that one. Ideologies have shifted, and not always in the right direction. A reset is certainly needed, and I'm glad that there's individuals like you who also believe it and are supporting that through various innovations and initiations.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. And it's definitely a big ship to turn around. But the planet is giving us a few cues that we have to. So I hope that'll help.
100%. All right, well, I must say, so actually I have been given a few questions, quick fire questions, that are going to allow the podcast and our listeners to get your thoughts with regards to the technologies that we're using and the sensitivities and things that we need to think about when we're using them, whether it's in payments or in health tech or any other industry. So without further ado, we're getting stuck in. So question one is, Ida, the world is becoming increasingly connected, but at the same time, there's a huge disconnect that we have with people because of the digital environment. Now, how can big data and analytics actually enable people to reconnect and find answers to the troubling personal questions that would have otherwise been answered by a close-knit community?
Well, I love that question. I think it's really central because a lot of people are struggling with feeling very isolated, not happy. Remote work has maybe made that worse. And one of the things that big data allows us to see is that things have patterns and what feels individual actually isn't. And so that helps us recognize a problem. And once we have that awareness, we can start solving for it. It also allows people to connect. It allows us to bring visibility to things that are kind of maybe embarrassing to talk about. But I think the most essential is that we have to recognize that we are bodies, we have flesh and blood, and bodies need stuff. They need actually other bodies close to them. And we need to understand that it's a skill set to feel our own bodies. I think this whole concept of embodiment is going to be a big thing in tech and in the world. Kind of like mindfulness now. I think fast forward 5 years, I think we're going to talk a lot about what embodiment is.
Health tech and payments both contain highly personal data. How do you leverage the data for positive ways whilst at the same time keeping our data safe?
You know, when you build a company, you make choices every day as a founder or a CEO about how you build your company. And one of the most defining things is how we make money. How we make money defines who we are. So we make choices about how we use data as an asset in the company. And we have to really be sure that we make highly ethical choices. So one way of thinking about it is that imagine that your user was sitting here next to you. Could you look into the eyes of this user and explain what your business model is? And if that doesn't feel comfortable, something ain't right. That's how I navigate. So you want to make sure that you honor the trust that people show you when they share this really intimate data. And there is no sort of but about that. That is just, the navigation. That's your true north. You have to honor that trust. And as a founder, I think you probably have a good sense when you're in a gray zone, and just don't go there.
I like that answer. It's straight to the point, and I think that's a good way of gauging a situation. Next question. We often hear that as the world develops its digital data, we fall increasingly into dangerous gender imbalance territory, where important tech developments miss, forget, or even exclude solving pain points for women. Would you say this is true, false? And if yes, then how do we solve it?
It's true. I think if you look at female health, it's a glaring gap in what tech has cared about for many years. And it's not that we don't use our ride-sharing apps and our food delivery apps and all the rest as women. Of course we do. But we have a huge set of live experiences that are unique because of the biology that we have. And technology has not solved for these pain points. What we see now is that a lot of women, they say, hey, I need this technology and I'm looking around, I'm not finding it, so I'm just going to start building it. And that's amazing. And that is the whole rise of Femtech that we've seen, where so many people, mostly women, but with men, build and innovate. And it's important because female health is really fundamental to our well-being. And it also makes a lot of economic sense to make women thrive in their bodies. And on a global scale, women really need to be taken care of in terms of their reproductive health, because it's very expensive when they are not taken care of. Either they have too many kids or, all kind of good developmental cycles. They really start with women having appropriate health care. So it makes business sense, and it makes human sense, and it makes planetary sense.
I agree. Wow, great answer. Next one is, do you see benefits to potentially embedding finance into products like your own Clue?
I think one of the things we feel, and especially women feel, is that there's a lot of overwhelm. Our life is too full, too fast. And having products that feel simple and intuitive, I think is really key. And right now, our healthcare systems are not really user-centric. We are not at the center of managing our own health data or really understanding our own health journeys. If we were, it might be helpful to be able to pay for services in Clue. But right now, I don't think it would be a helpful complication. And maybe somebody has a great idea I haven't seen. I'm happy to hear about it.
Thank you very much. And the last question is, I can't actually let you walk out of this podcast without talking about Femtech. So would you mind giving a little bit of a taster to listeners on the current state of play of Femtech, what it looks like today, and what you think its face is going to be in the next 2, 3, 5 years?
I feel there has been as I mentioned, this big explosion of innovation, investors have started realizing and recognizing that there's a really big market opportunity. A lot of these early stage companies, they have gotten very small amount of funding, and investors want to see financial return pretty fast. And we haven't seen so much yet. And I feel that there is kind of a little bit this dip in excitement. It was kind of a new thing in media, like hearing about a year ago, and maybe now it's like, so what's, show me the results. And I just have to say, it takes time to build companies. It takes time to mature business models, and it takes real investments to make innovation mass market products. And so we need some patience, and we need much more investment. So there really is a lot happening, and we need to keep remembering that we are solving real needs that are massive and important. Also, when sort of the first hype might kind of tamper off a little bit. I love all this stuff that are starting to look into the body on a more molecular level. We have people working on new types of birth control, which I personally find really exciting, but also things like measuring menstrual blood for various disease markers. We have cancer markers in urine. But oh my gosh, there's so many things. I mean, 10% of women suffer from PCOS or endometriosis, huge, very life-affecting conditions, a lot of pain. So I see a lot of activity there where people are trying to help people with chronic pain management or lifestyle changes. So yeah, I think we're going to see more innovation. I think we're going to see companies starting to make real money. I think we're going to see some consolidation where some of these services start coming together, because I think from a user perspective and from a data perspective, our data is still very scattered. So you have some data in your period tracking app, some in your running app, you maybe did a hormone test somewhere. And I'd love to see that data come together so that people really can utilize this to make decisions around their health.
Bingo. I cannot agree more. More data used appropriately gives us a real insight into our bodies. And we all know the secret to living longer and healthier is being able to monitor and catch things as early as possible. Yeah. Femtech can really help with that. Ida, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.